Cool. Right. Welcome back to our third episode of Mind the Microsoft Gap. Today, we are diving into a topic that's close to every organization's heart, which is business change. We've got our special guest with us today, Caroline Connolly. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Good. Would you like to just give us a little introduction?
Yeah, sure. Caroline Connolly, work as a consultant for Incentra. Been here now 2 years. Had lots of technical experience over many years, won't go into how long, and quite a lot of involvement in ACM, adoption and change management and stuff like that. It's something that I think plays a vital role in what we do, but also I think I've always just had that kind of people element to how I work and stuff like that. So it's been a keen interest of mine just over the years.
Yeah, and that definitely shows from our side.
I like talking to people.
I didn't mean it.
No, I know.
So let's start off with the big question then. What does business change mean to you?
Right, okay. So to me, I think business change means how organisations need to adapt. They need to stay relevant. They need to keep being effective, whether that's because they're changing change processes, whether it's adopting new technology or shifting how they need or want teams to work within their environments. But like I said, it's not really the change itself, which is often what I think happens. I think it's more importantly really about how the people react to it and how well we manage that transition for those people, because it's actually about those people and how they move forward, and they have to transition from one way of working into another way of working, and it has to make sense and add value, I think, fundamentally.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a side that sometimes gets neglected or forgotten about sometimes, especially when you're talking about technical projects. The default is to usually focus on the technical. A lot of times you're mainly dealing with IT teams. So having that other side of it to consider, so what the user's going to experience, what are they going to have to do to get where they need to be for this project to be a success, sometimes gets swept under the carpet a little bit, and it's good to shine a light on that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's business change, and you have to think that it's not, even though it's technology change, it is business change. So as much as it is about the technology, it's more importantly about the people, the culture, the mindset.
Yeah.
That's the real work, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. The impact on them. I mean, it's actually a really good point, because I think, I don't know about you guys, but I know that in my early days of IT, change management to me only ever meant, the technical change management and the process behind change management within IT. So whether that was an improved change to happen or whatever, it was never ever seen as something that involved the users in any way. Yes, the impact on users in terms of system outages or something like that would definitely be considered, but that's about it. How a user felt about that change or anything like that was never really talked about in really, way back when. But the fact that that's not the case anymore is really, really good. It's really positive as well. And I think there is still a lot of people that aren't doing it enough, but it's definitely changing.
Yeah. Go, Chris.
Sorry. Do you think it's something that businesses are good at? Is it from the project side of it that's maybe not as good at bringing it to light, or is it a real struggle within businesses, do you think, to adopt any form of change? Or is this a problem that we come across, or is it something that's just could be quite easy if we just took it by the reins and said this is happening?
I think there is companies that still get it wrong. I think it can depend on what the change is as well, because you see rollouts of change being just like they confuse people, frustrate teams that are working, which actually just slows everything down then when that happens as well. People will hugely stop engaging when that sort of thing happens. They'll also just form their own workarounds, so they'll just start doing things a different way but their own way, and they won't follow suit to what you wanted to do at all, which is really like hard and dangerous.
And well, big security risk. Then you start imposing your own security risks and holes, don't you, by doing that?
Yeah, and also the knock on to that as well is I think we then as an IT team, and going back to the technical challenge, is that you actually spend a lot more time fixing all of that rather than actually the fixing and the fallout of what's happened to actually trying to actually do the rollout, do the thing that you're trying to push out there, the new technology. So you end up kind of tidying up and fixing the thing that's gone awry because you kind of just didn't get that planned out well, you didn't get that early adoption, didn't involve people early enough. And it just, I also think it actually has a bit of an impact on morale when they get it wrong as well. Because if it's not handled well, and people do get frustrated, it's just going to lead to that general change resistance as well and lower productivity as well. So you're going to time is like affected and wasted, and so is your resources, and it just becomes a kind of a mess, really.
Yeah. And then just thinking of that human element of it, how do you bring teams along on the journey without making them feel like this is just what we're doing? This is a business decision. I suppose you have to think it's a two-way street, really, isn't it? Now you need engagement from everyone else in the business. It's not just a high level exec decision that just flows down and this is it, or
absolutely 100%. I mean, the communication is huge, but actually the involvement, so getting people actually on board and involved in it. So we know, I say we know, but actually some people don't consider it, but the users and the people need to understand why it's happening and fundamentally how it's going to affect them. They also want to know what role they play in it. So do they, sometimes I think we push change out to people and it's scary because they don't actually know how that is actually going to affect them in any way. Whereas actually a few onboard people get some really early change champions even or whatever, and engage them really early in the process, almost before you start really getting into the weeds of actually what the change is going to, the real proper technical process of what the change is going to be, but actually just really putting that early messaging out so people can feel like they're part of it and be involved. I think that's really, really important. Like, they don't just want, this is happening to you this time, like you'll lump it kind of attitude. Like, that's definitely not going to work, and we know that. Giving people the opportunity and providing them situations and safe space environments to kind of be listened to, hear their concerns, answer questions, make them feel part of the process. I think I actually think it's two-way street, certainly, but actually I think it's actually really beneficial to the technical change then as well, because actually they're the people that are going to highlight things that actually the technical element of it could be done better or differently, because actually they're the ones that know a lot of the time. It kind of depends what the change is, right? But fundamentally, I think if the earlier you get them onboarded, the better. And you're never going to onboard everybody, but what's also good about having some really early adopters or really early enthusiastic involvement from people that do like change a lot. And actually I think it's really super important to have people that are slight resistors to change to be really involved as well, because they're the ones that you will maybe change the mindset of quite quickly, or you can do, because their huge concern might be this huge overwhelming fear of something, and actually a quick one-to-one session with them or a safe space group environment with them to discuss it not only will maybe remediate that for that individual, but will probably remediate it for a lot of people, because then hopefully what happens is that individual goes away and shares that knowledge with their teams and goes, oh, it was nothing to worry about. I had this conversation and this is actually what it means and what's going to happen. And,
I think that's a big part of it, right? Like every time we get for lack of a better term, problem user that, is necessarily a little bit more difficult than the rest, I'm like, well, there's a prime candidate for a pilot group right there, because if you can make them satisfied and happy and see what the end goal is going to be, and find out what you need to do to get them there, and whether it be some training, or you change your approach slightly, or you change the time that things are happening so it doesn't affect them, if they're going to be happy with it, that means 99% of the people are probably going to be happy with it unless something goes wrong. Right, so just a lot of the time, pilot is a dirty word to some people, which absolutely blows my mind. Having worked for many years in IT, and literally no one taking the time to run, in-depth pilots and gather the feedback and do the development on the process. They just rush something out every time, and it almost catches people by surprise. And inevitably goes wrong because you don't have that initial testing and feedback and that dialogue between the end user. So absolutely everything that you said there, I think, fits in very nicely to a real world experience for an end user and an IT team, and it marries the two together quite well. And to say, right, where does this experience sit? Where does that experience sit? How can we tie the two processes together so everyone's happy? Because if you don't do that, it's almost starting on a loss, because you don't know what's going to happen unless you do that initial legwork and get the users involved. Absolutely.
And I think you probably kind of delved into this thing that I was thinking. Then I'm literally talking rubbish. Leadership, right?
Yeah.
It comes down to leadership. We
really
spoke
does.
just now about how it's a two-way street. And I think you hit the nail on the head just now, Caroline. And it's these problem users, these kind of difficult situations, really comes down to the difference, which is of leadership versus kind of management, which is what us at Incentra, everyone's really great at, and we kind of preach that. People, you need to be led, not managed. And that shows when you're then working with organizations that maybe don't have that kind of, I want to say luxury. It's not luxury, it should be a given really, but
you're right. It's like people that have been lucky enough to be in environments where that sort of thing is done really well can actually then make the assumption that, oh, everyone must do like this, but actually then they don't, and then you really recognize it. You really see it, don't you? And you really go, oh, okay, I was kind of given, I thought that was just how people did it, but actually, right, okay, you might have a bit of a more of a kind of issue here, because at the end of the day, the leadership plays such an important role, because if they're not fully on board and visible and pick it up from the straight away and lead everyone else in the sector, it's like everything. Like if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for us, or if it's good enough for her, it's good enough for us. So if you're not seen to be on board with it, if your leaders aren't on board with what is going to happen, then how do no one else will either. Like everyone's just well, if you don't care, I don't care. Kind of,
you need to lead from the top, not dictate from the top.
And it builds trust. So if people can see that leaders are on board with it, and I don't know, again, it depends what the change is, but if leaders can promote and say, like, I'm doing this and it's better because I now do it and I can see its benefits, blah blah blah, then everyone else is kind of going to go, okay, well, okay, if it's good enough for you, or if it works for you, then I get it and I'm on board with it. And also, I think we always see especially large organizations, but we always see messages coming down from leadership at a strategic level all the time, right? So leaders are always telling us where they're going strategically, where the business is going to pivot maybe from one direction to another. And we're always hearing messages from them about that stuff, right? So we take that on board. We're like, oh, you should know, you're the boss, like, you're the one managing this. So if they then don't do that when there's especially significant change, like big impact change that actually is going to maybe touch absolutely everyone, like a migration or something like that, then if they're not speaking about it, supporting it, and delivering that message in a similar kind of important way, then people kind of like don't take half as much notice. Whereas like they take notice when it's strategic and it's like, oh, some big change is going to happen within the business. I wonder what that is and what's going to happen there. And they wait for that reassurance from their leadership on what that really means to them as individuals. So how and why should that be different when it's like a big technical change? It shouldn't. They should still be like, oh, there's this huge technical change. How's that going to change things for me? Don't worry, it won't, or it will be for the better, or whatever, And then you're hearing that from in the same tone as you do everything else that is deemed very important for that company. So it's kind of like
you just sorry to cut.
That's all right.
You
No.
You just said like people connect, and people connect with stories and not spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And stories, I think storytelling is I see quite a few podcasts at the moment, and videos out there about storytelling, and it's a really good it's a good way to connect people, is storytelling, and not just here's all this change, and like you say, strategically. But you need to connect with people on an emotional level as well as a business 100%. Level.
100%. And I actually think that's where an additional element to the leadership and the management is that you get your leadership management that really drives and enforces the fact that the change is considered to be very important for the organization and for the business. But then what's really also important is, as that message filters down, you've got your managers. So you have your teams that are relying on managers for guidance, and your day to day, you don't go to your CEO for guidance necessarily, but you hear a message from him or her, and it's up to your managers to make sure that message is always aligned as well, so that you're then, I think Jodie and I spoke about this a while back, where there is some stats. ProSci has some stats around how much of a percentage people listen to the message being delivered either from the higher up exec level versus their line manager, and the line manager is like leaps and bounds higher.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that's your day to day. It's because I don't know about you, but I worked with some people that the powers that be is how they would sometimes refer to them. At the top, they're like, in big organisations, they're kind of untouchable, aren't they? Like, we're lucky enough to work in an environment where that really isn't. Ronnie makes himself very available and all the rest of it. But big companies, really, there's so many people that just don't feel like they can do that, and that might be from past experience or whatever. Different things for different people, but it's not really that surprising when you look at it like that actually that person that is their day-to-day, you would hope day-to-day supporter of what they do every day, which is your line manager or whatever, or team leader or whatever, they're the people that they kind of tend to rely on and go to. And if that person's message, if that manager's message is aligned with the big leader's message, then I think they're gonna kind of buy into it a lot more, or kind of go, oh, okay, then you're on board with it as well. I get
it shows that like uniformity, doesn't it, between between colleagues. It's more colleagues than you're being told.
And that relies on the message coming down being a conversation rather than this is happening. It's this is something that's in the pipeline. We're looking for your feedback around, how would it least affect your team and something like that. That engages a conversation that everyone is then a part of, that can then be fed back and used, or at least noted and, weighed up. But then that means instead of just an email coming down to say, I don't know, we're moving to Exchange Online, and everyone going, all right, right,
Yeah, what's that? Yeah.
I'm off back down the building site now. See you later.
Yeah. What does
Whereas,
that mean?
Whereas if the conversation comes down that's like, oh, you're signed in with a specific laptop that you take with you at the moment, and you have to connect to a VPN, and you have to remote, and you have to do this to connect, blah blah blah. But going forward, we're trying to find a way we can just have your emails on your phone.
Yeah.
How's this going to affect you day to day? Oh, actually, that would be useful in a real world situation. Actually, yeah. Okay, I don't mind taking a bit of outage or pain to make this happen.
Yeah. And nobody likes change, do they?
Yeah. No.
Everyone hates change, really. Like, you think the worst. You think, I'm like you say, Chris, you're going to be out of action for a day or whatever.
And so a lot of people are like, yeah, okay, but why are they doing this? What's the point? And then if someone could come down and say, well, we're paying £1 million a year to hire a data center at the moment, we don't want to do that anymore. Oh, no one's going to turn around and be like,
that's
I think you should actually.
Yeah.
If anything, you'll probably get the worst. It would probably be more like, oh well, crack on. What do you expect me to do? Does that mean I don't get a pay rise this year? Or that's all that. That's where their minds stop. Yeah. But on that, exactly that, and I think it nicely goes back to where we started with this in terms of engaging them early and stuff like that, and getting them part of the conversation, because actually sometimes it is just those simple things that they just need to hear to realise, oh, actually, this could be a good thing then. Like, and it might be one thing, and that one good thing will be a different good thing for lots of people. So the one good thing that's good for you won't necessarily be my good thing, but my good thing might be something else. And it's just, and I think that's why the best people that know the people that work closely with the wider teams are the people as you go down, like your line managers or your team leaders, or the people that can represent you, and they're the kind of people that you want in those forums of feedback, in their safe spaces, to be able to go, well, hold on, exactly like you said actually a minute ago, is I've got a team of people that are out on driving trucks most of the day. So are they going to be able to look at all the fancy online stuff that you provide to everybody else? No. Or if they do, they're going to have to do it really sparingly and be able to do it in their own time, and they don't really care. But like you said, if you turn around to them and said, well, don't worry a great deal about all of that, however, what the pro for you is going to be, you're going to be able to use an iPad now to do such and such, or you're going to be able to actually do something like this from your truck. You won't even have to worry about coming in. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well, that's more intriguing. That's a little bit, and again, it's like everything. As soon as you kind of get into one or two of those people that are in a certain type of role that work together a lot and talk to each other a lot, the peer-to-peer activity happens, and the top conversations happen between them, and then the better word spreads, hopefully, rather than this negative message that it's a bit like when we do communications, there's a real balance to getting, like, do you communicate too much? It's a no-no. People don't want it. But you don't want to communicate too little, because you don't want them to be not informed. But then you also don't want to communicate in such a way that isn't clear enough that it creates gaps in the message. Because what does everyone do? Everyone just assumes what the gaps are, and then the assumption of what those gaps are spreads like wildfire. And all of a sudden you got a Chinese whispers version of what's happening, and you're like, hey, and that's a challenge then. So it means it's hard. It means it's hard to get it right. And of course, depending on what the change is, and depending on what the industry is that you're doing change in, differs massively, like to what you're challenged with. So it's not easy.
No. So we've probably got about 5 minutes or so left, and I really want to talk about AI. But before we move on to that, because that, we need to talk about that with change, because it's got huge potential and huge impact. But just quickly, without naming names of clients, can you give us a quick story or an example of where you've had a really good engagement with a change on a project?
So I've definitely seen good and bad, certainly.
Yeah. Okay.
And actually what's interesting is I feel like one of the key things is I think a lot more focus gets put into large scale projects, and then what happens sometimes is the smaller scale ones are where people think, oh, it's just be quick and dirty and it'll be all right. So I think,
and it becomes a massive one because there's so many issues.
Yeah, so like I've definitely been involved in ones where you can follow all the real key, like it's a large scale project, it's got the real backing of leadership, it's got real momentum, it's got budget, it's got resource, it's got all the principles are going to be delivered right, the communication is well planned out, you've got all these feedback in various forms laid out and designed and set out ready to kind of do and implement, and they're great. But I think when you get the real problem is when you get the smaller projects or medium sized to small projects that people don't pay the same level of attention of the detail, so they kind of scrap a little bit on the planning, certainly scrap a little bit on some of the stuff that needs to be really well thought out and well considered. And unfortunately, I think that's where people probably make the bigger mistake. I think it's the small, because, and this is what I'm getting at, there are, in a lot of organizations, there's probably more small to medium sized changes that happen that are rather than the big scale ones. So we put all this great effort into making big scale ones and ticking all of those really good boxes of getting things right. But as an organisation, you do a lot more small and medium-sized changes, and they don't put the same consideration and effort and thought into it. And as a result, the user goes through a lot more of those types of changes, and then therefore have more potentially bad experiences. That actually then you get round to every 3 to 5 years where you might do a big one, and then the big one is a lot harder to do, because all of a sudden these smaller ones that you've done and you haven't done them as well as you should have now created this bigger resistance to the big one that you need to do. So all of a sudden the bigger one's a lot harder than it could have been. Whereas if you incorporate good change management, and we all know that big scale projects do mean probably larger effort and larger when it's touching every single person in quite a big way, and in the same way they're bigger and they need to be really well coordinated. But if you've got lots of small scale ones, but you still follow the same principles of it, but on a small scale, then they're going to come out successfully as well. Which means then when you're hopefully not going to have your users going through resistance and bad experiences and stuff like that, because they're kind of going to hopefully go, oh yeah, well, we do all these and the last few changes have gone really well. It's been like we've been onboarded, we've been talked to really well, been really well communicated, and it all went really nicely, smoothly, because it was quite short, quick and easy. So actually when the next big one comes along and it's big and it means getting even more people involved and even more people excited by the change rather than being resisting to it, the easier that bigger one is going to be. That's going to potentially take a lot longer to do as well.
Maintaining a standard, isn't it? Like laying out your change management standards and practices and maintaining them, keeping yourself honest to them, and yes, sometimes expelling a little more effort than you normally would maybe on the smaller ones, because in the future the bigger ones are going to be the ones that could really cause you the pain if you haven't done that. Like you said, thinking ahead.
Yeah, and it's the service, right? Like I think what a lot of people actually get a little bit wrong sometimes as well is you get to that success bit at the end and you go, oh, we've delivered it, we've done it, we've got everyone migrated, or we've done this, or whatever it is, whatever that tick box is that says project complete. But actually, I think that's where that can go a little bit bad as well. Like, especially if the project is very much about getting user adoption, that user adoption goes on and on and on and
Well, that's
on
where it starts for them, right? From their point of view, that's the start of the project.
And especially when it comes to everything now, like where we are, if we're going to talk about AI and stuff, where that sort of thing is really important, because that adoption is not only like, oh, we really want you to adopt it really, really quickly and then all be really happy with it, but we actually want you to continue to do that and continue to be happy with it, because it's going to actually evolve probably even quicker the further we go, like the more we go into this. Like, it's, you know, an inevitable change that I know we've all experienced, where you go from the old on-prem world and into the cloud. As soon as you hit the cloud, all of a sudden these changes come thick and fast, because like once you're in there, it's like, well, actually we can do this now, and we can do this now, and we can do this now. So that adoption and having people on board with and accepting of change, and seeing change as being actually something that's really positive or can be positive, is really important, so that it doesn't just become this, oh, we've done a project, we started it, we've done it, and we finished it, that's it, job done. That doesn't really, or shouldn't happen that way, I don't think. It's not conducive to really getting the true success out of it, really.
Yeah, good show. Right. We need to cover off AI.
Cool.
Just briefly, because we've really run out of time, but I do want to cover it. So what kind of trends are you seeing at the moment with in business change or with AI, and looking ahead at this and automation on this side of it? Sorry, I fired about 3 questions at you at once.
I think AI is just going to speed things up really, like, exponentially, isn't it, now as well? So it's about the fact that it's going to speed it up, but it's going to come with loads of new opportunity as well. So it's going to raise loads of questions. And we touched on this a little bit actually at the beginning of jumping on this call, Nick, and we were like, you know, AI has got so many external influences to anything I think we've ever really been challenged with before. So if you've got digital transformation in an organization, they're not the sorts of things, I feel like end users only really know about them when they go through the fact that they're going to do a process or a new system or whatever it is that the change is going to be. With AI, you've got this external element where actually films, social media, the world is like has their own interpretation of what AI is. So everyone's already got their own, what we just talked about communications and having the gaps. Everyone's already filling their own AI gaps before we even start talking to people about it. So I think the other thing about it as well, in terms of internally within a business, is people are going to start wondering more explicitly about their roles. Like, we know that people were worrying about their roles when it comes to AI. We know they worry about their skills, whether their skills aren't needed anymore, can they be automated? But I think it's just about us making sure that the messaging is that it isn't really just about automating tasks, but actually reimagining how we do things, reimagining how work gets done and doing it in a different way. And I know we all have had internal conversations about, you know, being ahead of AI is so much more important, because actually it is about how you use AI to do things better, as opposed to AI replacing you in any way. So I think
you've got, like, just thinking of like a real world use case scenario here, like not worrying about it taking your job, but if you're doing a large migration, as an example, somebody's still going to have to build out an FAQ, you know, that might be on SharePoint, it might be a PDF document, and lots of information that gets sent out via emails, or it might be on Teams. You could have an AI agent or an AI tool, sorry, not an agent, but a tool that allows people to converse through it. You know, as an example, using Copilot, where's my data going to be when we move, when we run this migration or after the migration? And it can reference all of this information, this FAQ, without people having to actually look through it. They can ask this one question that it can pull that response back and give to people, and it would take away a lot of this time that would be used up by people. Who do I ask for this? You know, I don't know who I need to ask to find out that answer or where to go.
Yeah.
Whereas I can just ask the question through an AI conversation tool.
Chat.
Yeah.
I think that kind of that makes a lot of sense. So it kind of flows into, obviously there's more risk with AI coming in as well, because of, you know, what's it doing with your data and all that kind of stuff. But people are going to use AI. If talking about automation and jobs and stuff, if it makes your job easier, you're going to do it, and you're not going to be able to stop people doing it. So I think having a framework around your data and
100%.
giving people the tools to use AI, if they're in a role where it's going to benefit them, you know, or even giving them the ability to use it. So say something like putting governance in around your data and providing people with access to Copilot, for example. You know where they're using it now. They're not going off to ChatGPT and just pasting random data into it from your confidential documents. And when you mentioned about the migration and having a chatbot to answer it, I think that is going to be that kind of similar thing, one of the biggest helps. I mean, you see like Google searches going down because people are using AI now, because it will go out and do the Google searches, put it in an attractive format and give you links and stuff like that. Obviously that all still needs vetting and you need to make sure, but then it did on Google anyway. That's what we kind of forget. You don't just go link one, click, that's the truth, right, let's go. But when you're saying stuff like that about it doing a very specific task or performing very specific information, someone's got to tell it where to get that information from. Someone has had to have created the information for it to draw from. So that's not a taking your job away thing. That's allowing you to focus on the core documentation and the principles of it, and not having to spend 6 weeks sending the same PDF to different users.
And you know that it's all factual information. It's internal information that somebody has created.
Yes, exactly. That's a good point.
So we won't go down an AI rabbit hole because we're doing an entire episode on that. But thank you, Caroline. That's been absolutely brilliant.
You're really
interesting.
Extremely welcome. I've enjoyed it. I like a good chat. And we can
do another one again.
I was going to say, sign me up.
And if people want to get in touch with you, they can find you on LinkedIn.
They most certainly can. LinkedIn or the Essential website, because I know there's some great. I certainly have done some blogs on change management, which can be found in there, along
Definitely
with others.
Worth a read.
And there's loads of great stuff in there at the moment. But
awesome.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much, and we will see everyone next time on Mind the Microsoft Gap.
Brilliant. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.